Okay, I'm now live, and I'm waiting for Thomas Webb to join me, and we're going to be talking about poetry. Well, I'm not going to be talking about it. He will. I don't know. The first thing about poetry, what the hell is this, do you think? Where did this come from? Who knows? Anyway, Thomas Webb has been watching my videos for a long time. Hello, Kim. And he wanted to talk about pens for poets. And it turns out he's a poet. So he's going to try to explain to me what he thinks he wants. And I'll try to explain to him what I think he wants. No, I have no idea exactly what this conversation is going to end up going like. And I just have a bunch of pens here on my desk, and I'll try to see which one of these he thinks would be for the poet. I did confess to him that poetry is something I don't know much about. And I do like limericks. Thomas Webb is here. Okay, here's your link. It's coming. Right. Copy. Paste. Send. So click on that, and then it'll open up on your device a Safari thing, and you'll click on that, and I'll invite you in. And then we'll see how it goes from there. So Thomas Webb, do you see the link? There it is again. If you click on that, it should open up something for you. You see it, okay. Okay, try it in Chrome. Yeah, it is. It's always something. It's always something that isn't working. There you are. I found you. Add to stage.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect. Thanks for having me on.
Well, Thomas, it's nice to hear a voice and see a thumb
Oh,
uh,
yeah. Hey.
and and your fingers. Uh,
Yeah.
so, uh, oh, an ink guy said, very cool that you made the notebook for the Madam Webb movie. Um,
Oh, yeah, I hope
so,
not. I heard that was a bad one.
well, I did make the notebook for it, but I can't take credit for anything else.
Okay.
So, um, so first of all, to the audience in the room, I may not see your text commentary um, until long after you type it, and I may not see it even after it shows up because I'm going to be looking down at my desk and talking with Thomas. So, by way of introduction, Thomas, what would you like to say we're doing here?
Yeah, I've just came to chat about pens mostly, maybe a little bit of poetry. I was kind of surprised actually when you emailed me today and told me I was going to be leading the discussion. So you scared me a little.
Sure. Okay, well, let me then start it by saying that initially you had asked me, you sent me a email, I think, saying
Yeah.
what sort of pens would I recommend for a poet. Now, I had no and still don't have any idea what I would suggest for a poet, but you might tell me. Let me, before you tell me what it is for a poet, I might know, I might ask an artist, well, what kind of art do you do? What can you show me a drawing? That'll help. Can you show me how you hold the pen? That will help. All these sorts of things help me find the pen that I think would be right for them.
Sure.
Now, one of the, and I do understand some of what a calligrapher wants, but when it comes to actual people that actually use pens to make words, those are the people that I don't normally deal with. So you're the uh, you're you're sort of in charge. While you're
Okay.
thinking about that, I just want to announce to Ink I wrote about maybe 30 or 40 pages of the notebook, and then there were other loose pages that they might have added into the notebook later. I really can't remember. I was doing it when I was at home in Minneapolis over the summer, so it's all kind of a blur. Okay, and hello, Ms. Marilyn Darling, and she says hello to Thomas.
Hello.
So let's pretend that. How do you put a pen in your hand and let me see how you hold it?
Yeah, sure. I'm kind of getting some examples here. So we'll go with this one. I just actually picked up this. Oh, I have a bad angle here. Let me try this.
Okay, well
That
that's okay. That's fine.
better?
Um, yeah, well,
Maybe the other one.
it's sort of looking at it upside down, but it's okay. It would be like I'm looking at
Oh,
you across the desk. That might be the best. There you
there we
go.
go.
That works
All
the
right.
best.
So yeah,
So there's a
about right here.
Parker 51 or 21 or 51
21
special. There's
super. Yeah.
21 super. See, okay. So you're holding the pen like an adult. You're
Hmm.
not holding it like this,
Yeah,
which is
I'm not hand fisting it, just
what
scribbling
what
out.
what people what people are taught to hold a pen these days, or they're not holding it like this,
Yeah,
you know, which is just as bad. But so you're holding it so you, without having to put your head on the desk, can see what you're writing,
right. Yeah.
and you're right-handed. So So far, so good.
Yeah,
Um,
so just very light pressure, just kind of, yeah,
uh,
that's how we got it.
you get to you have a very nice parif there, Mister.
Oh, thank
That's
you.
what that's what that's called. That thing at
I
the
didn't know
bottom of
that.
your name. And the reason, you know what it's for?
No.
It's not to make you say, "Gee, I'm important." What it was used for was to thwart forgers. It was easy
Oh,
for a forger to write the letters, but it was sort of hard for them to forge the swooshy bit. So
oh yeah,
if you had a swooshy bit that more or less was unique to you, then you could point to that and say, "Well, that's not my name. It's clearly not my name because the parif is not my parif." So anyway,
oh, very nice. Okay, that's
so
cool. Thank
no,
you.
so no, so anyway, so it also looks like you, unless you're doing this for TV land here, you write rather small.
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably small to mid. I pretty much stay within the lines if I have a line
Okay,
notebook, but yeah, that's probably about their same size regardless.
okay. So I'm inching my way toward the poetry. It just
Yeah,
is because something I don't know anything about. But
sure.
so you hold the pen the way that I think allows for the most freedom of movement. You can see what you're writing. You don't write overly big, so you can write lots of words on a page, and uh, maybe you can cross out a word and insert another word that you like better without having to start a new page.
Yeah,
So there might be uh, lots of benefits for writing small for any sort of writer whose words they are thinking of as they're writing rather than copying something like a calligrapher does. You're actually writing an idea and thinking about what the words sound like, I presume, as
yeah,
a poet
yeah,
would, and then tweaking that line by changing a word or adding a word or something to make it sound better or
yeah,
make it feel better, or the symbolism or the whatever your whatever the writers do
yeah,
make sense to you. So you're using your brain in primarily, I suppose, in coming up with the words. Whereas if I'm doing calligraphy, I'm using my brain to make sure that my lettering is spaced well. I
sure.
don't I don't care what it sounds like or what the words mean because I'm just copying them.
Yeah.
Uh, but
And
okay,
you did, oh, sorry.
no. So anyway, that's sort of how I would refer to the difference of how I would create a word on a page and how you might.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
you
because
hit it dead on. And I'm a
because
big, go ahead, I'm sorry.
you know no you go you keep talking.
Okay, no, you hit it on the head, and I am I'm a big fan of fine nib, so extra fine and fine is where I like to stay. Every once
Okay.
in a while, I can inch up to a medium, but that would be about it. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, so especially when I'm editing, so typically, and I wish I actually might have something nearby here that I can show you.
Yeah, I'd love
Yeah,
to hear it. Okay.
so on this one, so you can see I'm kind of like I'm writing in black typically, but then I'm doing
Yeah.
my edits in blue ink. But being
Okay.
able to, and this is probably not the best example, but being able to kind of get into tough spaces with a finer
Yeah.
nib is
Yeah.
important.
Now, have you ever thought of writing every other line so that you have more room, or would that poem not be all on one page?
So this one may not be all on one page if I did that, but also
Yeah.
just visually. I think that would throw me off a little bit because I think it
Okay,
would be harder for me to feel the flow.
I see. Okay, cool. Um, I know that when every once in a while I have to calligraph poems, and I hate doing them, but because I always get to the second to the last line and I screw it up.
Yeah.
Um, but often what I do when I'm calligraphing poems, I'll make a line. The first line is here. Let's say let me pretend this is the page,
Okay.
and I'll start a line here, and it'll go maybe to there, and then I'll have a second line, and I'll look at the line as it's typed out, and I'll decide, well, it's about the same size as this, but I'm going to start it here and have it overlap so it's balanced. These two lines are balanced. Then maybe the third
Sure.
one, I may move. I'm not going to alter them back and forth like this, but I'll have them stagger in a sort of interesting way where the whole thing seems balanced. Whereas I think a poet might not like that way of me rendering their poem. They might want it all justified left, like you did.
Sure.
Um, so, what else can you tell me about how you write?
Yeah.
Uh,
So, like I said, love finer nibs. I say almost. I always write in cursive if it's for my personal writings,
okay.
which that's kind of going away now too. But so I consider myself kind of a lazy poet. I don't know much of the poetry rules, and I don't really care to know them. I write exclusively free verse stuff and just kind of
Okay.
whatever comes out and try to work that to sound and feel whatever I think is right. But
Okay.
these days, I'm gravitating more and more towards vintage pins, which is kind of a big reason why I got into your videos.
Hmm.
Um, I have, I did have a pretty big for me collection, probably 30 or 40 pins, and I think I'm down to like maybe 25 or so now, and half of them are vintage. So,
Okay. That's a
yeah,
good a good number.
yeah.
Um, so what is the finest nib you have?
So I did have a Kirk Spear needlepoint at one point in time, and I
Okay.
liked it, but I have an Esterbrook Esty, one of the modern ones that I had it in, and for whatever reason, I just didn't like it uh, with this one. So I think this is probably the finest, which is just an extra fine
Okay.
in the other. Now, I did just pick this one up the other day. I haven't put any ink in it yet, but it's an Esterbrook. But I think it's a 9450. I think it was a accounting nib. I think
Okay.
so.
Well,
I haven't tried it.
it might be. I mean, if I were to send a pen to you, one of the pens I would send maybe would be a Waterman account nib or a Schaefer Feather Touch fine fine pointed pen because
Yeah,
their nibs are really, really, really fine, and you might find them really too fine, but maybe you'd like them for your editing, or maybe you might even like them to write the poem itself.
yeah.
Um,
Let's see here. Yeah, that's really fine. So yeah.
well, one of the ways I test fine lines is mark an inch off on your page and make as many distinct vertical lines as you can within that inch.
Gotcha. All right.
And I have a pen that can do 150 lines in an inch
Okay. Wow.
with a space in between. Now they're very, very fast. They're very, very faint, but that's a way that I do it. Now if I were to write it slower, then I then the line is almost twice as fat, just
Gotcha.
because. So I think that's not a fair test, um, because when you're thinking of words and writing words, you go very slow generally.
Right.
So, uh, but to me, what it looks like I'm seeing is a nib that is wider, thicker than what I would have called very fine. So,
Okay.
um, but again, that's, you're using different paper than I am. You're using maybe different ink, so there could be other factors involved too. But when
Yeah,
you
this paper is very, very, very smooth and coated, so it's not going to absorb much.
okay,
Yeah.
but that line you first made, the little squiggle
Yeah.
that you made with it, that seemed to go very fast, but
Mhm.
that also seemed to be very noticeably visual. I could see it, so I'll do the same thing.
Sure.
And here, that's almost invisible.
Right.
I mean, my camera is further away than yours is, I think, too. But
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, but and this isn't a. I mean, this is a fine point, and I'm not pressing down at all. So it's very fine. But again, I might have a nib that might be half the width of the finest pen you have, maybe,
Wow.
and
Okay.
you might like it or you might hate it.
Now, I do like a fairly smooth experience. I kind of like a little bit of feedback because if it gets too glass smooth, I feel like I can't
Yeah,
like I don't know what I'm doing with it. So if it has too much bite, though, on the other side, I do typically kind of steer away from those. So
yeah. Well, I would have it not be bitey, but I'm thinking a Schaefer Feather Touch might be really good for
yeah,
for you because um, uh, they can be very fine and they have a little tiny bit of flex to them. Um, I'm just trying to see if I can find one here.
sure.
This is not one, but I know I have some in a particular drawer. Um, now, when often when I think of poetry, I think of mushy, emotional shit.
Yeah, yeah,
And um, to me, if I was doing a movie casting for some sort of romantic poet, I might choose a pen that has sterling overlay like this. It's very pretty. Um,
yeah,
but uh, and if I was providing a pen for someone that writes articles for the Encyclopedia Britannica, I would give them a different one. Just
right.
a pen that only knows facts and rather than emotions. But for you, does the appearance of a pen, is that important to you?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that because I think a lot of people think along those same lines. Is that poetry is kind of this grandiose, kind of pretentious, mushy thing, and sometimes I feel so pretentious even writing my own poems it makes me want to puke. But I still enjoy it.
Okay.
I actually really like. Actually, I've been using this one pretty much exclusively the past little while, but it's just a Parker 51 special. Uh,
Okay.
so the more plain for me, the better. I do also really like kind of hard rubber. I think this is a Maybe Todd
Hmm.
Swallow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and it's got kind of a medium flexible nib on it, but yeah, I like kind of plain and understated just because it makes me feel like I'm working. Like it doesn't make me
Okay.
feel like
Yeah.
I'm writing anything like too crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
You're wearing blue jeans and
yeah,
and you're in the garage where you're not wearing a three-piece suit uh, and uh, working at a leather-clad office building on the top floor. You're working. You're getting your fingernails dirty, and you're crafting, using words to craft sentences that mean things.
right.
Uh, and with poetry, often it means something that isn't even written down. You know,
Yeah,
you finish the poem in your head or your heart or wherever you work on poems,
yeah,
wherever they uh, mature in your body. Whereas reading an Encyclopedia Britannica article about Cincinnati none of that enters your heart.
Right. Yeah.
It's just facts lined up.
Yeah. And I've even steered myself away from using like these ultra saturated, kind of like crazy named inks.
Yeah,
I find myself kind of going back to just Parker Quink most of the time,
yeah,
uh, or just Schaefer script stuff like that.
yeah. The for me, when I took notes in school, I ended up using a. This was in grad school. I didn't really have vintage fountain pens that much then, but I did actually. I did, but I found if I brought a flexible nib pen into class with me to take notes, I would end up um, doodling and forgetting about what the professor is saying and end up missing the point. So I would bring in a Parker 51 that forced me not to. I mean, I couldn't be fancy with it. I had
Right.
to be matter of fact. And
Yeah.
so for you, perhaps as a writer, anything that gets in the way or distracts you from crafting and using your brain to come up with the right word is going to bother you. Now, for some reason, this pen is, the cap is leaking on me. There must have been a big
Oh,
puddle in the cap, I guess,
oh,
somehow.
nice.
Uh, or I'm bleeding somewhere and I'm bleeding black ink instead of blood,
That
which is
could be a good poem.
that. So we'll see. Um, so Ms. Marilyn Darling says, I haven't worn pants since I retired. So, Ms. Marilyn, are you retired now? I thought you were going to be a doctor for the rest of your life because you had school bills to pay. I guess maybe Biden made them all go away. Medically retired. Okay. So Will Hodge is watching us as well. Will Hodge thinks pants are overrated. Uh,
I am
he,
wearing pants, just for the record.
just for the record, you're wearing pants, okay? And you're from down south too. I by your voice,
Yes, yeah. So I
right?
live in Tennessee currently, but I'm from West Virginia originally.
Okay, cool. One of my one of my friends, Russell Facemeyer, is from West Virginia.
Oh, cool. What part? Do you know?
I don't know what part. Um, he often is on my live streams and we draw together.
Okay.
I don't think he has uh, a southern accent though. So
Yeah, so the state is pretty much split across the middle. The northern part of West Virginia is pretty northern in culture, and the southern part is pretty southern. So,
I see.
yeah.
I see. Um, so what other questions do I have here to? So when you're the poem that you showed me
Sure.
with the edits, you seem to go edit without the doodles that you're showing now. Do you have a page like that next to the page you're writing your poem where you can, when you're thinking about what word you're going to write, you can doodle, or do you sit there quietly looking at that page to try to come up with that word?
I alternate looking at the page or looking out the window, one of the two.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So you stay on task
Yeah, yeah, I'm not a doodler unless I'm taking notes in, like, a meeting or something
and you're
or,
bored to death with the meeting.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. And what do you do for when you're for your paycheck at the end of the month?
So I'm a banker. Actually, I
Okay.
was just a generalized banker, like opening new accounts and all that, but
Okay.
just now switched over to the training department. So mostly writing procedures and doing trainings for the company and all that. So
Okay. Do you watch Hemingway Jones's YouTube channel?
I do. Yeah.
He's a banker as well
Yeah.
in
Yeah. I
real
like
life.
Hemingway Jones a lot.
He I want to get him live here on my channel once, or live here in my house. He lives probably 10 minutes away from me. I don't know exactly where he lives, but he's
Wow.
in Massachusetts, somewhere near Boston.
Yeah.
And he just hasn't had the time to do it. He has a family and stuff that gets in the way. But
Right.
I there's something about his romance of the pen and the writing and the journaling and the whatever that I don't have.
Yeah.
But uh, I want to talk to him about it. I want to see. I wonder how much of that is real, or
Oh yeah.
or if it's just for the show, and whether he actually uh, does as much of what I imagine he does regularly, or if he uh, uh, picks up a pen and um, doesn't go through the ritual that I think he might like to do all the time, but whether he does it all the time, I don't know.
Right.
You know, the Galen leather case, the special bottle of ink he's going to use this time,
Yeah.
uh, whether he thinks very carefully about which of the pens he's going to use to write with that day. These are all sorts of things that I wonder how he goes about that.
Yeah. I can tell you that I've heard him on a podcast before, and on the podcast he sounded pretty much the same as he does on his YouTube videos.
Okay.
So I would be surprised if he was drastically different.
Well, I'm very much what you see is what you get. I'm a slob. I'm covered with ink. I,
Yeah. I'm the same way. Yeah. I don't really change much.
I, but I do before I go out or before I go on a trip. If I go home for the summer in Minneapolis for the summer, I make sure that I bring at least two or so of every kind of pen I think I might want
Okay.
or, while I'm there, because I'm not going to come back here
Yeah.
and get it. But if I'm going out to dinner tonight and I'm going to sit at a bar and I'm going to draw and doodle and calligraph people's names, I might have 5 pens with me. And that might be the 5 pens I had with me last night.
Sure.
And I might stick with them until they run out of ink, or until I get a new pen that I just fixed, or I'm fixing it, or I'm talking with someone about a certain kind of pen, and I'll say, well, I've got one of those. I'll try that one and see what that's like. And
Yeah.
I'll get on a little duofold, Parker duofold kick or
Yeah.
something. But um, I, it's not a ritual in the same way that I think Hemingway Jones does. I
Yeah.
think, I think in your case too, perhaps, let's say you left your Parker 51 at the bank
Yeah.
and had the hankering to do a poem and you didn't have your Parker 51, you wouldn't wait until Monday to get your 51 to write a poem. You would sit down and you'd use your maybe Todd Swan or
Yeah,
something, maybe.
no, absolutely. And actually, I've been known, and I actually did it today because I did not bring a black ink pen with me today. I just brought my Parker 21 that has the blue ink in it.
Yeah.
And I just used a Bic crystal that I had in my desk
Okay.
to do the poetry. So,
Well,
yeah, I'm not
I,
picky.
I won't hold that against you.
Yeah, please don't.
Um,
Now, I do use black wing pencils too, if it redeems me any.
um, I know that they are the thing that people seem to love, and I have some. Some were given to me. I haven't really used them. Um, when I do drawings with pencil, I tend to be a Prismacolor pencil kind of guy.
Okay.
Um, and I draw often on black paper with
Oh,
white
that's cool.
Prismacolor pencils. So
Yeah.
I don't follow the rules normally there, but um, there are so many different kinds of pencils, and some of them are really shitty, and they're getting
Yeah.
shittier, and they're getting shittier and shittier. And uh, Crayola crayons, they almost have no pigment in them anymore. They're just wax, and
Really?
like you could write with a candle, a birthday candle with more color.
Wow.
So so many things are changing, and Blackwing pencils probably are well loved because they've got a nice dark graphite pigment or whatever it's made of, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they have that big square eraser that some people like.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
for those
Here.
for those
Uh,
people that make mistakes, I wouldn't know what that's like. I just
oh,
cross I just cross it out.
yeah.
If
No, I do the
I
same thing.
misspell it, I cross it out.
I've caught myself actually doing that when I use pencils too. I won't even bother erasing it. I just cross it out and keep going.
So anyway, what else are you going to tell me?
Oh yeah, so I just this is actually a recent pickup as well. I found an antique store down the street that had just tons of Parkers, and I bought
Oh,
like 5 of them. But this is a Parker VP. I don't know anything about them, but I was
okay.
just
Yeah, unscrew the barrel so I can make sure I know what that has the glass cartridge. Yeah, okay.
yep.
So the Parker VP is one of the rarer modern Parker pens. They didn't make them very long,
Okay.
and they had, I think, a triangular sort of grip section to them.
Yeah, yeah. It's got. I don't know. I don't think you can see it very well, but you can kind
Yeah,
of see the ridges there.
and then it has a dial sort of thing on the
Yeah,
front where you
yeah.
can twist
Maybe.
the pen nib so you can get it aligned perfectly with the way you want it.
Yeah, there you
And
go. You can kind of see it there.
it's kind of a neat idea. Um, and it might work well for a writer. It
Yeah,
might work well for perhaps for a calligrapher. For a drawer, no. I think I like rotating the pen and rotating my hand and pushing in all sorts of different directions.
for the different lines, right?
Where I don't hold it the same way all the time.
Sure.
And also with even if I'm writing words with a 51, for example, I'll flip it upside down to write on the back side of the nib to make it even finer
Yeah.
line. And to do that with a round section is really easy. To do that with a triangular section, I think would bother me.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of guided grip sections
Uh,
myself. I'm just kind of a Parker fanatic, so I picked this one up.
well,
But
it's a good one to have. What color is it?
it's red. I know my
It's a
lighting's kind of
terracotta red. Okay, yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
My lamps are on the other side of the desk, and my wires didn't facilitate me going over there. So,
yeah, yeah. Um,
but it's number 64 nib. I don't really know what that is, but I'm
I,
doing.
I'm sure someone can tell you that is not me because I have no
Gotcha.
idea. If I, but anyway, the Parker VP is kind of a rarish pen. I only have two, I think.
Oh, okay.
Only ever had two
Yeah.
in my collection of doing this, and I haven't actively looked for them because they're
Sure.
more modern than I normally like. But it is they are kind of a neat idea. I did see once, and Ms. Marilyn might get a kick out of this. It was a dip pen that was about as thin as this tool, and it had a place to put your point, the nib,
Yeah.
and then where you put your fingers, they almost looked like typewriter keys, and they were soldered onto the thing where you put your thumb and where you put your two other fingers. So there
Oh,
were these three typewriter keys that were soldered onto this stick, and I thought it was really, really cool. I wish I would have bought it. I didn't, and it was like $150. I thought it was $100 more than I wanted to pay for it, but
yeah.
I thought the idea was so cool, and there are some. I'm trying to think of other pens that do that kind of thing that that pen,
Yeah.
the Parker pen does. And I know there's modern pens that do that. I think, doesn't Lamy have something like that? Don't they have a triangular grip?
You know, the Safaris do, and Miss Marilyn, I don't know if she likes Lamis or not, but every Lamy I've ever touched, it has just been awful. I just can't handle any of them, and I don't know what it is, but I've tried the Ion, the Safari, the All Star, the 2000, hate them all.
Yeah, I liked when I bought my company. It came with a Lamy 2000, and I thought I liked the design of them, but I didn't like
Yeah,
holding onto them. I didn't like
yeah,
I didn't like the finish of them. I didn't like they didn't work for me. Um, so I'm very much, one of my pet peeves with any pen is the step down that you see on modern pens between the barrel and the
yes,
section.
awful. Yeah,
And I hate that. And I also really um, I like um, round pens that are
yeah,
are cylindrical,
yeah,
and they can be tapered. The section can be tapered. The I like moving my hand up and down on a pen. I don't want to have to trip over anything.
yeah,
Uh, and those those stepped awful things. I know why they're made. They're easy to make. They're easy to put a cap and a pen
yeah,
barrel. The
absolutely.
cap and the pen barrel match, and people might like that until they try to write with it.
Yeah, well, and I notice, a lot of times I write in a notebook. I'm not always just on a flat table, and as I'm writing, especially if I'm using like a Parker 51 or something, I'll
Uh-huh.
start like around here, and by the time I get to the bottom of the notebook, I'm holding it like up here.
Yeah,
So I do like that kind of being able to slide up and down like that without
yeah.
much.
I love that too. And I mean, sometimes if I'm sketching more than drawing, I'll hold it way back so I can see more of the drawing.
Yeah,
I'm making
yeah,
this area too dark because I have to match it to this area over here. And if my hand is like this, then I have to keep on doing this. So if
right,
I'm able to hold the pen back to draw it with it, I will. And um, then I have a problem with the cap. If this part bothers me,
yeah,
if it's hitting me here, it'll bother me. Now I
okay,
always post a pen, but uh, but I may find that a pen that has a big uh, difference here, it'll
yeah,
hit my hand in an uncomfortable way.
yeah, I could see that.
Uh, but
Yeah, I'm typically not a poster unless it's a Parker 51 or 21 or like a smaller Esterbrook or something.
uh,
Yeah, I could see that.
so, what about, have you ever used desk pens to do your dirty work?
I have not. So I actually have this dip pen that I got a while ago, and I just have
Okay.
I don't even know what nib that is. I've got it
Well,
from.
it's calligraphy or a drawing nib of some sort, but
Okay.
fountain pen desk pens, I love using them quite often. I have at my drawing desk, I I have a bunch of them and they're not in holders,
Yeah.
but I'm able to, what I like about them is they don't they're just this long tapered thing like the thing you just showed me, and
Sure.
I can really hold them way far back and I don't have to worry about the cap falling off.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
or so they're actually really kind of fun. The problem that desk pens have are that they often will dry out if you don't use them
No.
every day,
Okay.
um, because the sockets aren't as airtight as a cap is.
Sure.
Uh, but you might, if you find a desk pen at a antique shop or something, you might want to try it out.
Yeah. So I have one that I did pick up from an antique shop. I have to put a sack in it, and I don't really know how to get this section apart. But
Okay.
it says Tokyo. Uh,
It looks like, Does it have a lever?
Yeah, it's a lever fill. Yeah.
And and
I
it
think this is
probably,
where it
yeah,
comes apart here.
yeah,
But
and it
yeah.
doesn't have a nib.
Well, I have that down in the drawer here. It's sorry. I'm
And
kind of
does it
fumbling
have a
around for it.
a feed too?
Yeah.
Okay.
I yanked them all out because I was trying to clean the old sack out of there. But
Yeah.
yeah. So
Well,
and I
it probably, I would think that that it seems like it would be a hard section to pull out like a regular pen.
right. Yeah.
So I wonder if it's a screw out, but it might have been. I mean, some pens that were made inexpensively were never made to be repaired,
Right.
so it might be glued in.
Yeah, and
So,
this one came with one of these
oh,
desk calendar
okay,
things.
okay,
Yeah. So yeah. So
okay,
I don't know much about it, but
okay, cool. Um, well, soak it in water. Try unscrewing it both
okay.
directions.
Yeah. Sure.
And some of these things unscrew the wrong way, and you end up breaking it. So,
Right.
um, but that probably, I would think it would be a friction fit, but it might have been glued together. So,
Well, I think I may have pulled it out at some point in
oh,
time. I can't remember for sure, and I haven't been able to get it out since. So I can't I can't remember anything about it.
but if you held it in your hand
Yeah.
and had ink in it, and you move back and forth on the whole length of the pen, I think you might get a kick out of that, the freedom that a desk pen gives you that you
Yeah.
don't get in a fountain pen, because posting the cap on the back, I'm always afraid that in moving it around, I'm gonna make the cap fall off.
Sure.
And if I don't have it on, and if I don't post it, I often find the pen too short. So that would give you the best of both worlds, maybe.
Yeah, I think so. And I do enjoy using a dip pen when on the occasion that I do. It's just, I hate dipping it every line and a half. So,
Yeah. Well, one of the things I was talking with Todd Merrill about a couple of weeks ago was about the rhythm that you might get in dipping a pen, where you write a line, you dip it, you write a line, you dip it, or you
right.
write a stanza or a measure of music and dip it and measure, if that sort of rhythm that you might get into might help you write music or write poetry.
Yeah,
uh,
I didn't really think about that. That'd be cool.
but it might, and I would think it might work better, uh, maybe for a musician,
Right.
because they might be in, after they get the melody hammered out, the rest of the orchestration might be more formulaic, so
Right.
they won't have to think about what note is going to come after this, so they can get into the rhythm of doing it. Now with poetry, uh, because every word you are deciding upon which word you're going to use.
Yeah.
Now, if it was rhymed, rhythmic, metered poetry, maybe you would be more able to get into a sort of rhythm. But if yours is
Yeah.
more free form, you don't have that rule to
Yeah.
get in the
No,
way.
it's, I have a deep distaste for the man. So any poetry rules, I just throw them out the window.
Okay. Well, I love I love limericks, especially the dirty ones.
Yeah.
I have a book that's called. Let me just find the name of it, because the name of it is funny. Uh,
Yeah. Please do.
uh, and if I got up to find the actual book, it would take 20 years, but limerick. Okay, so here's the book. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
And it's called The Limerick. This is the largest collection of limericks ever published, either erotic or otherwise. Of the 1,700 printed here, none are otherwise, meaning all of them are erotic.
That's funny.
So, of course, they're the good ones.
Yeah, those are the good ones. I have to pick that up.
So that was, I was once at I can play this game with you. I can play the dinner party game. Have you heard me talk about that before?
I don't think so.
Well, what I do, I have a guest book that someone gave me, though. Can I find it here? I don't know. We can still play it, even if I can't find it. I can transcribe it. But someone gave me a guest book.
Yeah.
And it was half full. So it was also half empty. So I ask visitors that I talk with on here who they would like to invite to dinner. And you can either make it a 6-person dinner or an 8-person dinner. You're one of them. You're one of the guests.
Okay.
So you either have to come up with 5 or 7 guests. And they can be anyone living or dead. Let's pretend that they all speak the same language.
Okay.
So who would you like to have at your dinner party?
Okay, we're gonna go with 5 guests because I think it'll be too tough for me to do 7.
Okay, so you think about it for 1 second. Let me just see
Okay.
that book, because it would be fun for me to go through some of the other choices when you're done. I know Ms. Marilyn Darling did one, and Will Hodge, I think, did one. You think I'm gonna be right back.
Okay.
Might be in one particular location. Well, I don't see where I thought it might be over there, so chances are it might be over here. So let me just... I swear, if I brought one toothpick into this house, it would explode. It would just explode. Well, I'll write it down here and I'll transcribe it later. So,
Okay.
So here we have dinner guest list. Thomas Webb. Dinner guests. Okay, so we've got Thomas Webb, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you don't have to have it boy girl. That went out with the Dark Ages. So anyway,
good.
Who are you going to invite?
Number 1's Edgar Allan Poe. Has to be.
Edgar. He'll liven it up.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Okay. Who else?
Okay, I got Donna Tartt because I love The Secret History.
Donna, and her last name is T
Tartt.
R T T. Okay. So I see a theme a little bit.
Yeah,
Okay. Next.
Taylor Swift.
Oh wow. Okay.
And then we're
Well,
going to go Dylan Thomas.
Thomas. Okay.
And we'll finish up with Stephen King.
Oh wow. Okay. So
Yes, Will, I can see the comment.
there are, counting you, there are 5 authors. Does Taylor write her own songs? I don't know.
Yes, yeah, she does.
Shows how much I know about
Yeah.
popular music. Um, so do you think she'll be 2 alone in this group, or
I don't think so because I think she's a big
okay,
fan of Dylan Thomas. So,
okay.
yeah.
And Dylan Thomas is the poet you're talking about.
Right, yeah. So he wrote, I think his 2 notable ones are Don't Go Gentle Into That Good Night and oh gosh, it's the one about death, and I can't remember the actual title of it. It's one of my favorite
Okay.
poems.
Will Hodge said, "Can Thomas see the comments?"
Yes, yeah, I can.
Okay. Will Hodge, I think you, a lot of people, many people have chosen Edgar Allan Poe. Um, a lot of people choose Ben Franklin. Um, there was
Okay.
one person that just wanted to watch the cat fight and invited uh, Monica Lewinsky and Hillary Clinton and
That would be great.
and Stormy Daniels and Melania Trump and
Yeah, that'd be
uh,
great.
and Ms. Marilyn wanted to invite Marilyn Monroe so she could smack her
Oh, okay. Wow.
because she didn't like the fact that she killed herself or something. I forget what the reasoning was, but
Yeah.
anyway, I have the book around here somewhere, and it's just I will add your. So if now that you've
Awesome.
thought about it, can you think of 2 more people?
Oh,
Just because now, if I were looking at this guest list and thinking, is there another songwriter who
oh, yes.
who you might like?
Let's do Haley Williams from Paramore. I think she's fantastic.
Haley.
Why? No, so it's Hayley.
Of course it is. Haley
Yeah.
Williams. Okay. Okay. So now you've got 2 dames that I mean, you could almost do boy girl if you throw another girl in there. Uh,
Yeah, I could
and
probably think of another girl.
and um,
Ooh.
but I'm wondering whether you want to throw what's her name that wrote Frankenstein in there to
Oh, Mary Shelley. Yeah, that would be a good one.
because I'm just thinking of someone to keep Edgar Allan Poe happy.
Yeah, he needs some
I mean,
company.
he needs some company. So Mary
Yeah.
Shelley. Well, I think that would be a fun thing.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't see I don't see anyone, you know, getting into fisticuffs with each other.
No,
Uh,
probably not.
I for my list, I thought having Hermann Goering and Liberace and find out who shows up with the most gaudy outfit.
That would be great.
um, and God, I'm trying to think of other people. I had done my list, and Russell Facemeyer when he was doing his, he said he wanted to have Noel Coward there, and I love Noel Coward. I don't know why I left him out of my list,
Okay.
and I can't think of who. I think Saul Steinberg was there, Durer was there, um, and I was thinking more uh, artists and musicians, but
Yeah.
and I think Russell's was mainly artists.
Okay.
He wanted Cervantes there. He loves Don Quixote.
Yeah.
So, but it's really uh, a fun thing to play with. And there used
Yeah.
to be a TV show. May I ask how old you are, Thomas Webb?
Yeah. I'm 30.
Ah, youth. There
Yeah.
used to be, there used to be a TV show. I thought it was Walter Cronkite, but it
Okay.
turns out it was Steve Allen, and it was a show called Meeting of the Minds, I think, and he would invite um, people from history to sit down at a round table and talk to each other.
Oh,
And
cool.
one of them was Cleopatra, and one of them was I think it was a female suffragette,
Okay.
or um, and uh, Cleopatra thought women should have no rights, and yet here she was the queen of Egypt. So it was just funny how, but they all spoke in their character, and they wore clothing that uh, uh, let me just see if I can find it here.
Yeah.
Steve Allen. Uh, Steve Allen, Meeting of the Minds.
You know, now that we're not listing people, I'm thinking of a whole bunch of different people I put on there now.
Yep. So so here he's talking with Thomas Hobbes, I think, or something. And here's Richelieu on oh, there's Cleopatra. She's
Tell you the truth, we Egyptians looked upon the Romans as upstarts.
The Romans were upstarts.
Oh, yes. Well, you see, my own people, my Greek ancestors, that is, had...
Anyway, it was sort of a fun series.
Yeah, I'm going to write that down so I can go watch some episodes.
I think it was on the educational TV.
Okay.
So it didn't. It had already a small but smarter audience, maybe,
Sure.
than most. It's hard watching this at an IKEA, says Todd Merrill. And so anyway, it was sort of an interesting thing. So that's sort of how I got onto this dinner party idea. Was
Yeah, cool.
I thought that's what his shtick was, and I thought it was initially I thought it was Walter Cronkite that did it, but anyway, so Todd Merrill, Thomas Webb's guests for dinner was Edgar Allan Poe, Donna Tartt, Taylor Swift, Dylan Thomas, Stephen King, Haley Williams, and Mary Shelley. And I suggested Mary Shelley. That was my thought.
But fair. I like Frankenstein.
Just to keep Edgar Allan Poe happy.
Yeah.
And I thought that Stephen King. I mean, you've got those dark people, and then you've got the poet or two, and then you've got songsters.
Yeah, you know, Dean Martin would probably be pretty fun at dinner too. I'd like to talk to him.
Dean Martin, he could be the waiter.
Yeah,
Dean
that'd
Martin
be great. That'd be perfect, actually.
Or Dean Martin can be the bartender.
Yeah, that might be even better.
And Jerry Lewis can be the waiter.
You know, Will Hodge just said, "I don't remember Bowling for Dollars" from the '60s. I have no idea what that is, but I'm obsessed with like 40s, 50s, and 60s, just everything really. So there's this album that I listen to that's it's the Rat Pack. So Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis Jr. They did a live recording from the Sands, I think it was from 1963 or 68, something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
It's my favorite album of all time. To hear them banter back and forth, it's
Uh-huh.
fantastic.
I went to school at the museum in Madison, Wisconsin,
Yeah,
and I loved going between the art building and where I would eat. The student union was the historical society building, and I would always look in their dumpster because they were always throwing away beautiful old ledger books and shit
yeah,
that they didn't want. And
yeah.
one day they just dumped all of these things, and they were 8x10 glossies of TV stars and movie stars, and there were scripts from TV shows, and there were uh, mountains of telegrams, old
Wow.
yellow telegrams, and
Yeah.
they were given to the historical society by David Suskind, who was a TV talk show host
Okay.
and producer, and he gave it to them, and they promptly threw it out. So,
Yeah.
and anyway, so I grabbed a bunch of these nice little telegrams because I thought they would be really fun to use to write notes on the back of.
Sure.
Because I lived in a house with 8 people, and we were always taking phone calls and leaving notes for other people. And
Yeah.
you don't forget the milk, or bring the trash out tomorrow, or whatever. Or your dad called.
Sure.
Anyway, so I got them all home, and I was looking through them, and I found 3 that were between David Suskind, Frank Sinatra, and David Suskind again. So
Oh,
first it was Frank Sinatra responding to David Suskind saying, can make myself available to the above mentioned dates. My fee for an hour is $25,000 or whatever it was.
yeah.
Sinatra. And he wrote back, and this was a show called I don't know, it wasn't Face to Face. It was a talk show. It's like
Sure. Sure.
Larry King does. So,
Yeah.
or Charlie Rose or whatever. And Open End, it was called Open End. And Susskind wrote back saying, Dear Mr. Sinatra, thank you for getting back to me. I'm not interested in a program of you singing and with additional fill-up provided by teleprompter. How much for spontaneous discussion, or how dear your fear, Suskind? And then
That's so cool.
Sinatra wrote back saying, my fee for a traditional music program is $25,000. For parasitical programs like yours, it is $175,000.
It's awesome.
If you have the money or can raise it by tomorrow, let me know. Otherwise, go somewhere else. I'm a busy man, or something like that. So anyway, I had these three telegrams, and
That's awesome.
I gave them to my gallery director's wife, who was a Rat Pack fan, and
Okay.
I
Very
do
cool
still
present.
I do have a couple of telegrams here. One is from Tennessee Williams saying he could
Okay.
make it on the program, and another one is from Shirley MacLaine. And also, all her telegram said was, "The what?" question mark, Shirley MacLaine. So
That's funny. That's awesome that you found those though.
yeah, and actually a lot of the telegrams were from Get Smart, the TV show,
Sure.
and it was a lot of ad campaigns would use the "sorry about that, chief," or and they would say,
Yeah.
you have to cease and desist. That's a copyright thing from our show. You can't use it.
Sure.
So most of them were that. But had I known that there was going to be something called eBay, I would have rented a trailer, taken all of
Yeah,
these things out. I mean, how
for
much
sure.
would an original script for Get Smart TV show go for? You know,
Oh, it would have to be,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, a couple $100 at least, right? You would
Yeah,
think.
at least a couple $100, I would
Yeah.
think.
Yeah, maybe a dollar or two.
So anyway, it was fun. But I think this was good. I don't know whether I think fine and plain is what you should have in
That
your
is my game. Yeah.
in your thing, and we can then work with that. Now, do we get to see what you look like behind the thing,
Oh,
or are you
yes,
going
I
to
thought we could do that. Let's see here.
show us a picture of you? Look
Oh,
at you!
oh,
Look at how
hey,
you get cleaned up.
yeah,
I won't show you what I look like because it would be a mess. But anyway, well, good. Well, so now I can put a face to the handwriting, to the everything else.
yeah,
Um, so, uh, um, anyway, it was good meeting all of you, meeting you in person and seeing our thing here and
yeah.
our guests. And we talked for 1 hour and 11 minutes and 18 seconds. So I think we had a good time.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for inviting me
and
on. I
and
really had a great
and
time.
and I think we can do this again. And maybe if there's another writer, I can
That'd be great.
have you and the other writer talk together
Yeah,
about how you craft things. I know that we have had a lot of musicians or people that are music oriented. We have a lot of calligraphers and a lot of artists, but I don't remember having, and we've had journal keepers, but I don't know if we've had another poet
yeah.
particular. Does anyone know any poets out there?
Oh,
Um,
and Kim Christensen, I need to look at that pin. I saw that they put that out today, but I haven't looked at it. And good
I'll,
to
I'll
meet
take
you, Todd.
I'll take a look at that too. Um, I think that um, I would really love to get again to get Hemingway Jones on here because I want to see I want to ask him some questions, some how dare your fear, just find out.
Yeah,
But again, he might not want to have that be public knowledge if he's actually a slob
sure,
and uses a
sure. Probably
ballpoint
not.
pen and
Yeah,
uses a ballpoint pen. Of course, he doesn't want everyone to know that. But I think I do remember him mentioning at one point in his fountain pen journey he stopped and
yeah, yeah,
and needed to depart from it, and maybe it sounded to me that it was more of a problem, like a pen exploded on him and he got a suit dirty or something. I don't know
yeah.
what it was,
It was something like that. Yeah,
what the trauma was, but I'm just wondering. I know that a lot of people don't like vintage pens because of the fact that they have so much ink right there where it's needed.
yeah.
So that when they do this, that happens.
Right.
And a
And
modern pen won't do that.
well,
But a
and I have
modern
this
pen
weird
also,
paranoia. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, but a modern pen won't do that because their ink flow is so stingy
Yeah.
and they
Well,
don't have flexible ink, so they don't need it in the first place. So,
yeah,
but I could see that if that happened to you, you would be turned off of fountain pens immediately. So
sure.
I wonder if that was one of the problems he had. But he's
It's
back
gotta
on it
be.
now, and I have a feeling um, I think I think he's sincere in what he says, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think that he also really loves and romances journaling and uh, thought recording. I mean, my days are so absolutely depressing and miserable, of course I don't want to write them down again.
Sure.
Living them once was bad enough. Writing them down, but it does help if you, especially if you are having a hard time
Yeah.
with life, and writing it down, putting words to your emotions actually does help in a way. But
Yeah.
somehow, to me, creating and here I'm projecting something on Hemingway Jones that may not at all exist, but
Yeah.
to go through the ritual of a tea ceremony before
Yeah.
you drink your tea. By the time you drink your tea, you don't need it anymore.
Right.
You have something else to do. You have something else
Yeah.
to do. But again, if the ritual of selecting the right pen, selecting the right journals, putting the right kind of ink in, if that all gets into the process of desiring to record your life, that's all great.
Yeah. Yeah.
If using a different color ink on a Wednesday will make the Wednesday seem better, by all
Yeah. Go
means,
for it. Yeah.
go
Fill it
for
up.
it. So, uh, uh, so Friedrich said perhaps the cash flow might have influenced his return as well. I know that I'm sure he gets paid handsomely by YouTube for his videos,
Oh, I'm
and
sure.
I think he also gets lots of free pens,
Yeah.
which is all fine and dandy. Certainly, no company has ever asked me to talk about their pens because they would be afraid of my honesty.
Yeah. I
Uh,
was about to say that may not be the best choice for them.
I mean, I did get Goulet Pens did send me a free pen. Actually, they wanted me
Oh, cool.
to test out a pen or to do some sort of artwork for some thing they were doing,
Okay.
and they did send me a pen, and I actually was surprised that it worked as well as it did. Didn't have a flexible nib, so it didn't have
Sure.
what I often like, but I tried to appreciate it for what it was, and I did like it for what it was,
Yeah.
and it was nice of them to do that. But I don't know. I look at the Visconti Homo sapien, and it's
Okay.
hard
Yeah.
for me to imagine a less comfortable looking pen to use. It just now it may be very nice, but
Yeah.
it
I've
just
never used one.
like it would be problematic to me, and I don't know if it's the clip would be in my way, or how, if there's a big step down between the barrel and the section. But
Sure.
a step down is always a turn off for me. It just,
Right.
don't even send me one of those, because
Yeah.
it's not going to be pretty. Uh, um, but I know that Hemingway Jones these days does like vintage. He's gone back to trying some of his 100-year-old ebonite pens and stuff.
Yeah.
And
I've watched a couple videos of him. I think he's got a Waterman that he does a couple videos on, and I
yeah,
enjoy those quite a bit.
and I think part of the joy he has with that particular pen, though, is the romance of using something that's 100 years old,
Right. Yeah.
rather than actually comparing the way that pen feels to a modern pen.
Sure.
All modern pens seem really heavy to me because
Yeah, they are.
they're made of brass, you know. So,
Yeah.
and you could put a trigger on it and use it as a gun. They're big and fat and heavy, and
Yeah.
they seem very sort of clumsy to me. But if that's what and I give someone an older pen to try,
Yeah.
they're surprised at how lightweight they are and how thin they can be.
Well, and
Um,
going back to your ink flow thing, as you saw, I write pretty slow, but I'm paranoid about ink flow. So I'll do like the quick swirls and stuff, kind of like you do, just
mhm.
because if I want to see if it will keep up. Because my signature, I mean, I sign a good bit of stuff at work, and my signature is very fast. It's just kind of just a quick scribble. So
Uh,
if that's full of skips,
if
then
it's if it, then it's into the trash can.
yeah,
That pen.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It's anyway. So I am looking forward to meeting him in person, and anything that I don't think I said anything tonight that he would take offense at. I'll let him know that we talked about him, but
yeah,
it's just he he has this uh, ritual romance with the pen, with the journaling, with the literature, with the story behind a pen. He's very
yeah,
keen into that, and that's great. It's something that I'm not that interested in. Uh,
yeah.
I know that someone can tell me all about this pen and or what quarter your Parker 51 was made, the third quarter of 1944. Well, good for you. it's
Sure.
it's it doesn't and but anyway, it's just I find it fascinating to hear how different people treat these things.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
Todd Merrill and I are going to have a little discussion one of these days about the term writing instrument, and I always found that off-putting.
Pretentious.
Off-putting.
Yeah,
It pulls it up further than I feel like I'm not good enough to use a writing instrument, but I am good enough to use a pen. you know.
yeah. Well, I have a friend of mine. Well, it's actually a family friend of my parents, and she very graciously gifted me a Mont Blanc 149 for my 30th birthday.
Oh,
Uh,
sweet.
and a lot of people keep those at their desks or like that. It doesn't leave the house. I toss it in my backpack every day because to me it's a tool.
Uh, uh Oh,
So
good. Good.
yeah.
This one was gifted to me. This
Oh, very
149
cool.
by my
Yeah.
neighbor, and the nib. I don't know if you can see the trauma of this nib,
Oh, yeah. That hurts to look at.
and I was able with my little pliers to make it actually writable. I am
Okay.
able to write it, and it. I'll just show you that it does work, and it's not
Oh yeah.
scratchy. It's not. It it skips a little bit, and it may just because I'm dipping it, but it
Sure.
is the tines do this. They're
Little crooked.
they're and and see, I find this too big for me.
And looks like Miss Marilyn, I don't know if she's talking about mine or yours, but mine's a fine, but it writes pretty wide for a fine. It's closer to a medium, I think.
Yeah. Well, if you have any cred with Hemingway, send him a thing saying get on Pier's thing, or I'll go on his.
Yeah,
And
there you go.
again, you know, for people who have an actual following that they are very careful about who they are connected with.
Sure.
I can often talk about things that are quite off color,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
or also quite liberal, or
Yeah.
quite openly gay, and it doesn't bother me, but it may bother
Sure.
some people. So
Right.
if I have to not have my potty mouth going, I'm happy to do that too. But again, he's because he has such a following and he's monetized and everything else. I think that he might be more concerned about the result And I
Yeah.
also know that for his things that he does, that he produces himself, he edits and stuff. I never do. I don't have the time
Sure. Sure.
or the desire to do that. But
Well, and that's, I mean, I like that about both of the videos. I mean, I like Hemingway's, but I also like watching you scribble, for an
yeah,
hour. I mean, it's great.
yeah. Todd is now again correcting me. He's
Yeah.
referring to this beautifully crafted and intricate machine
Yeah.
that is, um, rather than my relationship to it in creating a line. Um,
Gotcha.
but I know that he and I use words very sloppily.
Sure.
Todd uses them very carefully. Um, you probably do it as well, maybe in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so I think uh, Todd is more looking at this as a delicate machine,
Yeah.
and uh, it's sort of the difference between when someone calls a watch or a timepiece.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
something about using the word timepiece that makes me now think of time
Yeah.
and and eternity and
Yeah. I'm a watch guy
you
too,
know
so I like that. I like that
and
analogy. Yeah.
whereas a watch, it tells me what time it's, a quarter to four. So
Right.
it's i'm looking at the use of it. It's telling me what I need to know. I'm going to be late. But
Yeah.
I understand, putting on a different kind of pair of glasses, different kind of spectacles, to see this in a different way than I do. But the biggest
Sure.
problem with me with writing instruments is this one collector friend that was such a fucking snob. He's dead now, so I can say that out loud.
Okay.
That he he always used the word writing instrument
Oh,
for his pens. He might have looked at my pens and called them pens, but his were writing instruments just because he owned them.
oh, okay.
He was a jerk.
Yeah,
He showed me a big box full of Esther books that he made it sound like he took them out of the gutter, or took them out. He went out to the backyard and dug up the cesspool and took them out to show me, because he said, "Oh, I brought these out to show you. I know you like them." And the way he just said that about these, and I don't like Esterbrook pens particular, but I have lots of customers that love them,
yeah,
and they are perfectly good pens. They are, in fact, they are better made
yeah,
than than most $200 modern fountain pens now.
yeah. I think so. Yeah.
So, uh,
I mean, poets are the same way. You have a lot of poets out there that just they think what they do is the most important thing in the world. I'm just writing some words on
yeah,
paper, man. You can calm down.
you can calm down. Yes, yes. Breathe into a paper bag. Calm down.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, anyway, Thomas, this was a lot of fun, and if I get my
absolutely.
act together sometime between now and the end of time, I'll send you an accountant nib or two, or something like that. And yes, I know, Frederick, I've got this for you. One day I'll get to it.
That would be great.
Uh,
Yeah.
and so anyway, be good, everyone. We'll talk to you later. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye bye.